Thank you all for showing up. Today is September 16th, and we're in front of the California State Capitol in Sacramento. And we are all concerned about geoengineering, or as the United States Air Force Academy calls it, chemtrails. California is sprayed daily. It's rare to see a day where you don't see skies that we didn't have in our childhoods. And this is a covert program. Nobody will admit it, least of all these guys. But it's up to us to put pressure on every elected and unelected official there is across the nation, not just California. And although this is as covert as the Manhattan Project, and I would say larger, because when you think of it, to buy one plane, you're looking at $200 million before you put fuel and maintenance and whatever the hell they're spraying on us. And so there's a very large paid opposition to prevent this message getting out. But it is getting out, and I've been active for some years, and each year, this will sound like an exaggeration, but more than twice as many people as the year before are aware of it. When you talk to anyone, it's true. I mean, you all know it. And everyone you speak to knows the skies are expletive deleted ED. And children even know, hang on, that doesn't look right. And of course, we'll have the opposition will say, oh no, those are just condensation trails. To which I say, you're correct. They are condensation trails. They are artificially nucleated condensation trails. Water does not condense to itself. If you get water vapor in a vacuum, well, it won't be a vacuum if there's water vapor, and you drop that to like minus 40 degrees, it'll stay as a gas. As soon as you put in any condensation nuclei, it can be soot, dust, pollen, cosmic rays, boom, it condenses. From high school, we grew crystals. We start with like a grain of salt, put in like super saturated salt water, it grew. That's what's happening in the skies. And so we're seeing all this stuff going on. We call it, well, for people who are first looking into this whole geoengineering thing, and first of all, what is geoengineering? We are told, it's not happening, but it comes in two parts. There is carbon capture, where they suck carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, inject it underground, and expect it not to act like a shaken up soda. That's step one, doesn't work. Step two is the one we're here for: solar radiation management, albedo modification, stratospheric sulfate injection, and any other number of names. They keep changing the names, so it's a moving target. The goal, as outlined in Raytheon's patent, well, filed by Hughes, but now owned by Raytheon, who really care deeply, the massive weapons contractor, is to reflect sunlight back into space with these little particles to reduce global warming. Unfortunately, if you put particles into the atmosphere, they will attract water vapor and condense and form clouds. Clouds insulate. Cloudy nights are warm, and when it's overcast, the temperature drops. It does not work. They know it, we know it. But the most alarming thing about it is the health consequences. If you look at the patents, in the Raytheon patent, in the U.S. Navy patent, and there's 150 of them going back to almost 100 years. First one I think is 1920. Talks about putting nanoparticulate aluminum, barium, and strontium. When the geoengineers have their little dog and pony show saying, we really, really don't want to do this, but we might have to, they only talk about sulfates. Sulfates are sulfuric acid. Unfortunately, their own literature says sulfates don't work, they stick together, they fall out of the sky. What you need to use instead is nanoparticulate metals like aluminum, barium, strontium, thorium, and other creepy stuff, which is what we're finding in our rainwater, in our hair tests, in blood tests, in bark tests, in groundwater tests. we're getting saturated by this stuff. Alzheimer's didn't make the top 10 of the CDC mortality statistics in the early 90s. In 93, I think, it first showed up in the age range 65 and older at the 9th leading cause of death. Now it is number 6 overall. And where's that coming from? Yes, there's aluminum in vaccines. That might have something to do with it. But it is indisputable that aluminum causes Alzheimer's. Bees are getting Alzheimer's. People in their 20s are getting Alzheimer's. These are all peer-reviewed studies. But what I find more alarming is the mortality statistics on respiratory failure. When you die when your lungs stop working. Respiratory failure overtook stroke to be the 3rd leading cause of death in 2011. How? Smoking has been declining for years. We supposedly have better emissions on cars. Coal-fired plants either have scrubbers or are being shut down, and our heavy industry is being moved to China. So why are people dying of respiratory failure apart from what we can clearly see above our heads on a daily basis? So personally, I have a physics and journalism and photography background. I live in San Francisco, and I've been doing these time lapses every day. Well, not today because I'm here. And it's actually, this is something anyone can do. If you have an iPhone, you can do a time lapse with an iPhone. You just point at the sky, make it take a picture every few seconds. An iPhone will actually put that into a time lapse for you. It's really simple to do. We need to be doing this all over the world, recording the skies. And also, anytime it rains, which is a rarity here in California, collect your rain, send it to a different lab each time, and document. Because the more documentation we have, the more pressure we can put on these guys who will keep ignoring us. But it's easier to sell to people who just have been told, oh, don't worry, this is just a harmless vapor trail, it's fine. But anyway, my time lapses. Back in March and April of this year, I counted, there's a 30-day period when there were 21 incredibly rare sundogs, which is a halo completely encircling the sun, which can't happen with water. Water and ice have a very specific refractive index, which is how much they bend light. And when you have a refractive index of 1.31, you get a rainbow/halo with an angular radius of 42 degrees, which makes a halo or a rainbow that we see. We see the top half of it. What you don't see is this tight one. These are 21-degree halos. And to form one of those, you need something with double the refractive index. So what has double the refractive index, for example, barium sulfate, it's 1.63 or something off the top of my head. Anyhow, so during this period when there were 21 of these incredibly rare sundogs, it rained briefly, enough for me to get 2 samples which I sent to 2 different labs. And when I got the results back, it came back at 160 micrograms per liter of barium. Aluminum was actually kind of low in that one. A previous rain test, I got 190 micrograms per liter of aluminum, but aluminum was like down at 5 and barium at 160. Less than 1 gram of barium will kill an adult human. These guys are talking about spraying hundreds of millions of tons of albedo modification material in the skies every year. They say they're not doing it. Anyone looking up can see it. This is having a devastating effect on human health. And it's not just human health, it's all life. The particle size that they talk about is about 5 nanometers. In David Keith's paper, they talk about 5 nanometer disks. That is enough to go through tree roots, through your blood-brain barrier. It affects all life on Earth, and hence, you got your bees with Alzheimer's now, which sounds comedic, but it's sad but true. So there's this massive health impact, and for these characters, the way the legal system works, if you need to have a dollar value damage before you can actually have standing for things. And this is costing the state of California. if you extrapolate those respiratory numbers, and that's not counting asthma, allergies, there's a huge cost. And that's, I think, one approach. But really, since it's still completely covert, our job is to tell everyone that we know. And because there's still a lot of people who don't know yet. And it doesn't take much to prove that it's going on. I mean, yeah, you can look up and see it's going on. But there is plenty of evidence, and like I said, we're making a huge amount of progress. A little more what I've done these last couple of months. It's been a tremendous amount of progress. In July, there was a climate conference in Paris, which was the last major conference before the IPCC meets this December to do a whole bunch more carbon taxes and climate things, which they're going to try and force on the world at large, completely ignoring this whole geoengineering thing. But for years they've been trying to include geoengineering as an option or something they could consider. And I think we managed to put a stop to it. There was 5 of us went to Paris. I wrote a paper. This is my first paper I've ever written. Just there. I've got a stack of them there. If you want to use. This is a useful thing to bring to city councils and stuff, and it just shows pretty much what I just said, but in scientist ease. And I managed to. It basically shows this is what they propose. This is what we're finding in the rainwater, and these are the consequences. So I got into the hands of 700 of the attendees at this climate conference, and they really were backing off on the geoengineering thing. So I don't think it's going to go into the December declaration, but this they have to do at some point, because the only excuse they have for spraying us is, oh, to save us from global warming. Unfortunately, we're in a pause right now, and it's not getting much warmer. So they have a limited amount of time to sell this global warming thing, and they can't implement carbon taxes when they're screwing with the climate to the extent they are. I mean, the drought in California needs to be mentioned. Here's how rain works. As I mentioned before, these particles will attract moisture, and when there's enough moisture clinging on to a little thing, it gets so large that gravity will take over and it'll fall out of suspension and come down as rain. However, these nanoparticles, a 5 nanometer particle, you can fit 1 million of them into 1 square millimeter, which is the size of a grain of sand. And multiply that by 500 million tons, you have a lot of particles. So anytime there's a storm front approaching the California coast, you can go to you go to NASA.gov. You can see the satellite imagery every day, and there's this crisscross of crud all across the Pacific, and that acts like a massive brawny sponge and stops all the rain. And another way rain will form is when the altitude increases. So when you look at people here, there's people here from Nevada City and Reno and the Sierras. Those places get nailed, and that's to stop the rain. But going back to this term geoengineering, it's not just about the weather. If it was, they would find the most reflective particle they could find and just spray that. However, people who've been paying attention, they look up, there's all kinds of stuff they're spraying up there. It used, like about 5 years ago, it was just the lines, which would spread out and turn the sky to crud. Now we're seeing ones that fade in about 5 minutes and go all twisty. You get ones that drip. You get ones that rapidly expand. You get ones that have it's super weird. They have like this long trail, and then stuff will blow off the side of it while it stays in place. The weird, creepy ones. Plus, you have the chem bombs. There's just this massive wall of crud comes through. If it has a different physical behavior, it is different physically. So it must be for something other than just solar radiation management. And we know it's killing a whole bunch of people. The people who publicly fund this, I was at the Paris Climate Conference. Ken Caldera actually admitted the CIA were funding it partly. He works for the Carnegie Institute. Carnegie publicly funds it. Gates Foundation funds it. Rockefeller, Ford, and the other foundations who are all set up by robber barons. They're all in on population control. And if this is killing a whole bunch of people, it's sort of in line with that. I'm not saying that is the purpose. They don't invite me to their meetings. I'm still waiting for an invitation. Please invite me. I'd like to see exactly who and why this is happening, but we know what, where, and how. And this is the biggest environmental crime in history, yet the people are supposed green stewards, such as Greenpeace, it would be charitable to say they were asleep at the switch. Greenpeace, back in March of this year, put out a press release saying, Greenpeace UK, please stop sending us pictures of chemtrails. It's an urban myth, it's just water vapor, you're a bunch of, I didn't say you're a bunch of crazy loons, but they implied it. But they're saying this solar radiation management program doesn't exist, and one of the discussions they're having at the global level is, well, if country A wants to spray, country B doesn't, who decides this? So there's an organization called the Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative, and they have a website. Just go to their website, click on partners, scroll down to G. Oh, look, there's Greenpeace. Shock. So Audubon Society, Sierra Club, anyone who takes money from a foundation, and unfortunately Democracy Now!, they get foundation funding, are not going to help. Also, you got to assume I'm full of crap too. Do not trust, the only thing you should trust is your gut. I could be a fed. I could have been put here to lead you along the way and get you to say, oh, I'll give you lots of facts and figures, and then slot in the end, and the moon's made of cheese. So when you go and say the moon's made of cheese, like, oh, you're one of those moon made of cheese people. So you got to trust your gut. Don't join organizations, sadly. There's, like I said, one plane, $200 million, before you even put gas in it. So as soon as you have an organization, it will get infiltrated by shills. But shills aren't the smartest. They are motivated by maybe getting a slightly larger flat screen television. We're in it for the species. And they also have a handbook. There is actually a shill handbook that ended up on Pastebin. And one of the most common techniques is Rule 19, which is the 19th rule. And it's rather simple. Ignore presented evidence, demand impossible proof. So I can say, okay, prove that I had a sandwich for breakfast, which you can't because you weren't there. So you can spot them pretty easily. And we spend a lot of our time on social media. And people who might be seeing this video will, when they first start, say, here, wonder what this line is here in the sky, and suddenly, within minutes, they get attacked by all these trolls and shills. They think, wow, that's representative of the public at large. It is not. When you talk to people randomly, on the bus, in the supermarket's checkout, on the street, anywhere, you do not get this level of shillery. And I mean, when I said before the awareness is more than doubling each year, it's true. And we are getting to where the fight against GMO was not that long ago. And that, again, was this like massive, corporate thing it wasn't covert, But you think, well, how can little me as an individual stop this thing? And it was won by people talking to their neighbors, and from being dismissed as these crazy conspiracy theorists, now it's a mainstream thing. If you went out to 100 people with an organic apple and a GMO apple and offered it to people, I don't think many people would pick the GMO one. So I'm not quite sure how this will work with the spraying, but if everybody, well, not everybody, we don't even need a majority. We need a determined minority. We've been ruled by a determined minority since we evolved. We lost gills and developed lungs, and it's not. And even then, you don't. A determined minority is the best thing to beat a determined minority, and it doesn't. Feeling anger towards them is kind of pointless because they just are what they are. They have always been inbred sociopathic, expletive deleted as, and we're always going to have them. It's just like an ecosystem. You have a parasite class, and we're the prey. But just like the movie Avatar, good movie, I thought. Whenever the scumbaggery increases, naturally opposition will spring up against it, and the balance will sort itself out. And maybe I'm Pollyanna-ish, but I cannot see how they can take back the progress we have made, and I see nothing stopping us from going forward. I mean, how can they? I mean, it's like when you go online, like years ago when you talked about GMO stuff and you get attacked, oh no, GMO is safe, it's going to feed the third world, it's wonderful. Those words ring hollow and they have nothing else to back it up. All these guys have is, global warming, which isn't playing ball with them. And I do want to talk a little bit more about global warming. There was a movement back in the 30s called the technocracy movement. And their idea was to replace the economic system with energy credits and get rid of governments and borders and elections and be ruled by experts or technocrats, which is what we're seeing in Europe right now. But they're going to replace the entire economy with energy credits, and now we're seeing a move towards carbon credits. We've got smart meters. The main reason that didn't work was because you needed to have a complete, up-to-date, comprehensive inventory of all human activity and resources, which was impossible before high-speed computing and the internet. Now they kind of have that. So they are pushing towards that. And the only way they can sell it is on demonizing carbon. Carbon is a trace gas essential to all life on Earth. It's plant food. Water is 95% of our greenhouse gas, and they're screwing with it by creating all these artificial clouds. That is the issue. Do not demonize carbon. The plants need sunlight. They're taking that away. They're taking away the water. And I do not consent. So I'm just going to wrap. I've gone on long enough. Oh, actually, another thing. After the Paris thing, the EPA were dumb enough to hold a hearing on aircraft emissions. And they wanted to keep it quiet, so instead of publishing it on their website, they stuck it on some FTP server and hoped the public comment time would run out. It got noticed. So several of us went to DC and gave testimony on it, and I don't know what the final numbers were, but instead of having this little thing slip through and become a regulation without anybody paying any attention to it, more than 20,000 people across the country wrote in and said, "Stop spraying us." So That was good. That was good. And that's the other time you saw this $5 thrift store jacket. I rather like it. But also another thing which I thought was quite astonishing. Several months ago, I got interviewed by this independent journalist, Jeremy Liebarger, and he wasn't with a paper at the time, and he was doing a story on chemtrail activists. So he interviewed me at length, and some friends, yay. And on August 20th, he as the new managing editor of San Francisco Weekly, he ran it as a front page story and played it down the middle. For the first time ever, a corporate-owned media publication gave both sides. It wasn't, these guys who think the moon's made of cheese, versus here's this scientist who will tell you, don't worry, it's just water vapor. And it even routed out Mick West, who's my second, well, my BFF is Ken Caldera. Let's put the pathogens in the sky, dude. Now, Mick West, he's like the top shill. And he, the week after that article came out in San Francisco Weekly, he was on the air on drive time radio in Sacramento, broadcast telling people, don't worry, they're vapor trails. So, and this is just from July to, that's like two and a half months. So I have no idea what the next couple of months are going to do, but I can't see us going backwards. So everyone can do this, and it doesn't take much. I mean, I have no official qualifications, but I have a brain, a mouth, ears, and eyes. We all have that. All this stuff is out there. You can look up all the white papers and patents and stuff. It's super easy. It's good to keep documenting, but the most important thing is you got to talk to everybody. Everybody. And we also need to show ourselves as being rational human beings, because again, another shill tactic is have somebody saying your position, but with like swastikas over them, or or whatever. Like with the part of the way they broke up the Occupy movement is get people running around naked, sticking needles in their arms and just making everyone else look bad. Just be rational. Don't come at it from a point of fear or it's everything's terribly wrong. The balance will restore itself, and we will win this thing. And it takes one person at a time. You don't know. I mean, like the next person you speak to could be here next time we're here, and we might have 5 times as many people. We don't know. It doesn't matter. But once once the truth is out there, you can't take it back. You can't put people back to sleep. And also, a lot of people think, oh, but the population is so dumbed down, there's no chance of reaching them. They're not dumb at all. Talk to your average sports fan. He'll know the RBI statistics of opposing teams, whatever the hell, when they're playing that, that game thing, with the ball and stuff. I'm no expert on that, but and then you can talk. The wisdom you can get out of like 12-year-olds or 90-year-olds, it's don't judge on appearances. And although one I would generally judge on is the hardest people to reach are close family and well-to-do 30-year-olds. They're the worst. People who've had like everything's been going great for them. No, the government would never lie to us. Or I'm part of it, so I won't get screwed over. Yeah, look what happened to the SA in Germany. It doesn't work that way. So homeless people, everybody, just if you have a mouth, use it. There's resources on my website. I've got my website's stopsprayingus-sf.com. I've got flyers and that paper is over there. Copy. Adapt it, and it's not that complicated. We're being sprayed. it's killing people, and it's bad, and we do not consent. So let's stop this thing. So I've rambled on enough. Anyone want to throw a question out? There's a mic there. Yeah, come over to the mic.
Thank you very much. Very well spoken and very inspiring. The question I have is, I'm reading that it's being done also so that we don't have enough vitamin D from the sunlight, and that our American dollar is going to collapse, and what they will only offer is carbon coupons. So if we don't use much energy, supposedly, and we fit in these little complexes near the big cities, we'll have more coupons.
Yes.
And the third is, how can the 2% not be affected from what's dropping from the sky?
Well, first one was about the vitamin D. So yeah, like I said, they're cutting out sunlight, water, and adding in poison. So it's all bad. It's all bad. Yes, and lack of low vitamin D increases cancer. It's a very bad thing. Second one was about the carbon allowances. That goes back to technocracy. There's a book you should read called Technocracy Rising by Patrick Wood, which explains all that. I also have an article, it's a very, very good book. Also on my website, there's I wrote an article on selling chemtrails, which outlines the technocracy movement. Yes, they absolutely do plan to get rid of borders and governments. When they do destroy the economic system, they will replace it with carbon allowances, and that ties in with Agenda 21, which is monitoring, constricting all energy, food, water, all that stuff. So absolutely, that's what they want to do, but I don't consent to that either, so I'm dead against that. Third one is, aren't they getting it themselves? Absolutely, they are getting it themselves, but I was at the San Jose American Academy for the Advancement of Science conference in San Jose this February, and I spoke to a scientist from Tulane I think Tulane's in, where is it, New Orleans? New Orleans. And he knew people who are working on proteins that can go in and not only chelate free aluminum ions, it could actually extract it from embedded, bonded aluminum in organs, and that technology is available, but it is not available to us. So this is that's just one example. But the thing is, you've got to remember that the people who are doing this thing are completely insane. They are so inbred. They've been marrying their cousins and brothers and sisters for generations. Look at the royal family in England. It's clearly, they're not all together there. And they are all sociopathic, inbred, expletive deleted. And they are, and they know that GMOs are harmful. So they think, oh yeah, well it's simple, we can just grow all our stuff under glass and we won't get any of this GMO stuff in there. No, they can't. Pollen's really freaking small. Their organic stuff will get contaminated, and they will get that stuff too. They're the same people who decided it would be a great idea to set off hundreds of open-air atomic tests, knowing that stuff was poisonous. So don't credit them with any logic. But they are all murderous eugenicists. And this is nothing new, because if you control the pyramidal structure of power, and you can control militaries, governments, religions, education, all that kind of stuff, you can control a lot from there, but they always had a problem with the fact that we outnumber them a lot to one. Hence, this is a large reason why we've had all these wars and stuff, wars and famines and things that can be started by a small group of people. And this is nothing new. If you read Plato's Republic, Plato was talking about, oh yeah, the people are too stupid to rule themselves, we should be run by experts. Oh, and yes, there's too many ancient Greeks. So this eugenicist thing, you'll see that. I mean, there's an assisted suicide thing going through right now through the state. They're all about getting rid of useless eaters. We are useless eaters. And I do not consent to that either. If they feel so deeply about their planet, they should all spay and neuter their children, so we don't get another generation of this BS. So I'm all for that. I haven't cursed once. Yay.
California's on fire, and
Yeah.
is there elements in these chemtrails that are flammable?
Well, here's my take on that. A lot has been said about the aluminum being flammable, and elemental aluminum by itself is it burns very white hot. But if you have a piece of aluminum and you scrape it with a key, it immediately oxidizes. What's falling is aluminum oxide. That is not flammable. What it will do, though, it'll kill trees, so the trees are dry, and that's like tinder. So yeah, it's an accelerant, sort of. And maybe there are other, we don't know what they're spraying. I mean, when I do my water tests, I only test for 3 metals. It's aluminum, barium, and strontium. I don't know what they're spraying. I mean, when you look up, there's all kinds of stuff. It could be anything. Some people have found like white blood cells, mycoplasma, all kinds of weird crap. So what they're doing, I don't know. But the main thing is it's drying out the state, and that's going to cause fires for sure, without even the need for an accelerant.
Yeah, I just want to inject one thing in the.
Yeah.
You know, they have banned fireplaces.
Yeah.
And
That's
it
Agenda
seems
21.
like there might be a connection, but thank you.
Yeah.
Patrick, I'm Sean from San Jose.
There you
Thank
go.
you for coming to speak. And so we've seen some Facebook posts and stuff on the propaganda side showing persistent contrails to the children in textbooks. And we've seen it in commercials and a lot of other things. Now, I do have a child in 3rd grade, and I would like to know how can we wake these children up without scaring them? How can we wake them up and make them aware without scaring them?
Well, I talk to children as I talk to anybody else. They're pretty sturdy things, children. I mean, they know very early in life the hardest thing, that life is finite. I mean, they don't necessarily feel the fear of it, but they're aware of it. And just as you will talk to a child about, don't get into, vans with someone who's got puppies and candy and stuff. That's another. I mean, yeah, there are bad people in the world, and this is just another part of it. But I do want to go back slightly to the children's thing. There was a book written for preschoolers that came out in 2008, and it's like, I think the name was What Is That Cloud or something. And then of course you have these chemtrails, and the kids have been flying kites and dogs. Look, chemtrails. And in the teacher's note, it explained, yes, these trails are formed when aerosols / particles in aircraft exhaust, have water condensed to them. That children's book was the first admission. By the way, it was funded by the State Department and NASA. It was the first admission of the chemtrail programs in a children's book. It's on my Facebook page. It's ridiculous. But going back to not terrifying your children, the world's a scary place, but I wouldn't protect them from it, just as I wouldn't pretend there was a Santa Claus, or mommy and daddy are going to live forever. You have to. Pick the appropriate time.
Yeah.
But children need to not take things at face value. We're trained through life. The people when I mentioned earlier about the people you just forget about trying to reach, are like postgrads and in their 30s. The way you get to that position in life is agreeing with what you're told for 30 years. When a child, when they're 2 years old and they find the magic of the word no, encourage that. Because people who just say they're authorities, a healthy distrust of authority. And also, what we lose as adults, the childlike wonder that we had when we were young. We have a better sense of following our gut feeling. A child will know that's a creepy guy, or that's not. They just know, and you could probably learn a few things from them. But I wouldn't protect them from it. I would say, yes, this is another thing that's not great, because they know that wars exist because the TV's on. So this is just a war on us.
Well, you'll be happy to know my son does look up.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Lisa Thomas from Sierra Nevada Geoengineering Awareness. We're up in Nevada County and kind of take in Placer County and try to take in the Tahoe area to some degree. I want everybody to thank Patrick for being here. He did a great job, represented us all at the EPA a couple of weeks ago and did a great job at that, and has worked incredibly hard with everything. I'd like to also thank Thomas for putting this together.
Yeah.
It's something a lot of us have wanted to do and have just not been able to really get it together to do that. Incredible job. And I want to thank everybody for being here. That you all came out, and I know that it's not easy for everybody. I got more excuses from people this week than I've ever heard before, but this is good. This is a start. We didn't get this many people in front of the federal EPA, even though 100 said they'd be there. But there's about 50 of us here today, and that's a start. This is just the beginning. We have to keep going. So one announcement that I'd like to make is that we, Sierra Nevada Geoengineering Awareness, and the Banner Grange up in Grass Valley are having an event on Monday night. The doors open at 6:30. The film starts at 7 o'clock, and the film is called Playing God with Planet Earth. It was done by Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and played up there in Canada. There are only 2 copies that I know of in the United States, and this features the scientists themselves talking about geoengineering and spraying the planet with, they say, sulfur dioxide to solve our climate change problem, and all of the things that go along with that, the unknown consequences. They go into that a lot, and they talk a lot about how that would cause drought. So it's a really important film, because then I show a couple of short clips afterward, thanks to Patrick for snagging one of them. The one is with David Keith on the Colbert Show. And we can really show David Keith in his true light and what he's really thinking, and all of this stuff that's not on that DVD. So we're having that, and then a Q&A session afterward. It usually takes about 2 hours. I've done this 3 times before. And I'd like to thank Kathy Sarmento, who has helped me get Sierra Nevada Geoengineering Awareness off the ground and put this film together for us. And a big thanks to the Banner Grange, who's taking us seriously and bringing in a special guest that night to see this. And hopefully we can really start to get this out into the open, into the public, take it off the conspiracy theory files and into reality, because we can all look up and see what's happening in our sky, and it needs to stop. It is destroying the trees, it is destroying our soil, it is killing California, and it has to stop.
Hello, I'm Deborah Whitman from Environmental Voices. There's that better. I'm the founder. A little closer. I'm the founder and president of Environmental Voices. We're now in Rockland. And I want to stress, thank you so much for being here, first of all, and Thomas for putting this on, because one of the issues that I talk about is the health issues. And when I learned about this, I had been really sick for many years. I had a high-paying job with the state of California. Actually, for a while, I worked across the street here. And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. I was going to an emergency once or twice a month with respiratory heart attack type symptoms. And this went on for years. I finally had to retire early and go on disability. And finally in 2006, a friend called me and said, go research chemtrails. And I said, what, a contrail? No, it's too big, just go research it. The first website that I pulled up, I knew that's why I was going in emergency so much. So I like to tell people, this is a serious health issue, and he touched on that a lot. You need to build up your immune system. You need to find healthy ways to chelate the metals out of your body, and we need to get strong. We need to fight this issue. It's worldwide. It's been going on for too long without the public being aware of it. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I tried to organize some rallies here several years ago, and unfortunately, I didn't have as many people as we have today, but I thank you for taking the time to be here and go out and spread the word. And I'm just so happy to see that this program is finally getting off the ground, and they're not telling me that I'm a effing nut anymore. They're coming up and asking questions. So thank you again.
So basically, I could say that, tell me if I'm wrong, that if I were to juxtapose fracking of the ground to the sky, I could say it's sky fracking.
Pretty much. Putting toxins in for some supposed benefit.
And these are the most likely the same multinational corporations that are involved in the same thing as GMOs.
Well, if you look at the interlocking directorships of the top companies in the banking and pharmaceuticals and in military and you know, it's the same small group of people. There's a book that was written back in 2005 called Superclass by David Rothkopf, who was head of the Kissinger Group. And he said that I just call them the scumbags. The scumbags there is the top families and their lieutenants number 7,000, which is vanishingly small. You could you can get them in like a room. This room, if it was on Mars, would be good. But unfortunately, they're here. So it's a very small number of people. They have inordinate influence, and yes, all these things that happen sort of all over the world at the same time. Geoengineering is just one thing that's global. You know, Russia sprays, China sprays. They spray over Israel. Israel, it's so small they have to fly in little like loop circles. Switzerland, supposedly independent, they get sprayed. But the other things like the smart meters are going in globally. The being groped at airports is happening globally. So and the push for vaccines. So this is something above government. And when people say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," there's no such thing. I tell them to watch The Godfather, because in The Godfather you have a number of families, the most powerful families in an area, say, and they'll kill each other from time to time, but whatever they decide goes. And that same model you will see in high school cafeterias. It's just the way humans work, and animals too. Groups of baboons do this. You'll see it in kindergarten and sports teams. It's just the way the world works. And I think it is massively naive to think that does not or could not happen at a global level. So whoever are the most powerful people will set global policy. So who those people are, I don't know. I mean, for all we know, like we hear about like Rockefellers and Rothschilds and all these sort of people. They might be front guys. I don't know who's doing it, but I know that they're doing it, and that's all we need to do to stop them, I think. So, did I answer your question, or did I just ramble off on a tangent? I'm sorry.
I like the answer.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I just put them all together, seeing if it's right to see it all in the same bunch, you know.
Yeah, they I mean, like I said, they will fight amongst each other. You know, you'll see. I mean, look what happened to the Kennedys. You know, they were part of that thing, and you know, they all got bumped off, most of them. So, so they're whoever are the Corleones, who are the Tatalias, I don't know. But that model, I can't see any other way the world works.
So their way of business is making money, and making money is...
Well, it's not money, it's power. You know,
power
it's about control. I mean, because they print money, you know.
At the expense or the lives of all living beings.
Well, I mean, think of countries like tax farms. I mean, we're just like a crop to them, and they weed us every now and again.
Like a socio-psychopath.
Yeah, because and that's the thing, unless you actually have met and had close contact with a sociopath/slash psychopath, you can sort of understand intellectually that, if there's a person that has no empathy, but until you actually see how they operate, it's a very, very chilling thing, and those are the people who run the world. Their front men that they use are narcissistic sociopaths, but they themselves are inbred, and they really, that's a very dominant thing. And if you have a son that doesn't show enough sociopathic tendencies, he will not be given the reins of the family.
I call it reptilian.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they, you know, as an analogy, sure. I mean, they have no empathy. You know, if they stepped on a kitten, they might be concerned that we have to like get these pants dry cleaned. That's their only concern. It's very, very chilly. They do exist, and just as you come across people who are this really warm, awesome people, when you're close to them, you can just feel you just feel good. When you meet these people, it's the complete opposite. It's almost like someone dims the lights and the room gets colder. They're really, really scary. And they should be treated like pedophiles should be treated, just like separated from society, just kept away, because they are the most dangerous thing on the planet. And they consider themselves another species. You know, and they're all about transhumanism and all this weird stuff, but they are just nasty, nasty people. And unfortunately, they run the world.
Put the spotlight on them.
They hate being exposed. They hate it.
Put the spotlight on them.
Yeah, yeah. And it's actually fun. One of my things I forgot to mention earlier, my BFF, Ken Caldera, he actually, in an interview, once said that when he worked at Lawrence Livermore, the national, where they make nukes, he was in a meeting discussing putting pathogens in the cloud to do chemical and germ warfare on civilian populations. He did not like that when it was brought up. So just keep the heat on them. You know, anytime they show up, they do show up in public, you know, just call them on it. You know, say, we do not consent, you said this then, and stop doing it. So, and we all look different, so they don't know who, I mean, they can go out in public because they don't know the person next to them might be one of us. So, right now they sleep slightly uneasily. I want an epidemic of insomnia amongst the scumbags, so they have to hide in their little hideaways. So anyway.
I just want to make a comment about the conspiracy propaganda.
Yeah.
You know, put a big red thing across anything on the internet and call it a conspiracy,
Yeah.
and everybody clamps down because we don't want to be considered a conspiracy theory person. But if somebody had yelled conspiracy on Hitler, we might not have lost 6 million Jews. We forget that this kind of stuff does happen, and that human life, there are those people out there that really don't care. It's all about power. So just because we live in a modern day, we think that because we've all been put to sleep, that there's nobody out there, and that anything that you bring out that's not considered a normal, everyday Starbucks situation is called conspiracy. And we need to look at history and go, gosh, if somebody would have said, knocked on doors and said, oh, by the way, over the hill, there's some smoke going on over there, and they're burning little kids just like yours in incinerators. That if somebody would have said there's a conspiracy that this is going on in concentration camps, you know, people would have laughed them out too. They would have laughed them. So anyway, that's it.
Well, not so long ago, if you said the government were listening to your phone calls, reading your emails, that was a conspiracy theory. So, you know, just because, you know, it hasn't been officially admitted, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean it isn't happening. And we do not need official blessing. Yes, okay, we're doing it, because we can see them doing it. We've got, you know, it's super easy. And yeah, bad things have happened throughout history. Just look at history. I mean, the wars get started. Anyone who will start a war knowing like babies and kids are going to get blown to smithereens, they are the enemy. And this, I mean, geoengineering is the covert one. We are under assault from all angles. Our food, our water, the vaccines, I mean, the estrogen mimickers. I mean, like every freaking thing introduced into our environment is an estrogen mimicker. Like, how come it's not like, doesn't like grow hair or make, you know, your eyes change color? Everything is an estrogen mimicker. You know, got phthalates, PCBs, bisphenol A, all magically just happen to be, you know, a synthetic analog of estrogen. And actually, also at the, this is like as a side note, when I was at the conference in February in San Jose, there was a guy from Berkeley who was talking about atrazine. Atrazine is a pesticide that predates Roundup. It's been used it's still legal. It's been used since the 50s. It's not an estrogen mimicker. What it does when it encounters testosterone, it converts it to estrogen. And these things are, it's rampant. I mean, like now, as people are moving away from aspartame, which, you know, give you brain cancer, oh, the healthy new thing is stevia. Stevia got mentioned in John P. Holdren's book, Echo Science, the book where he's saying, yeah, we've got to get rid of 90% of the population by sterilizing people surreptitiously. And he said, you know, here's a good thing we can use. There's this herb they use in Peru as a contraceptive called stevia. So, you know, this is more, you can say it's a coincidence, but if there is a, you know, it is, people conspire to lower the population. I mean, they may think, oh, it's for the planet, it's a good thing, but if, you know, I think we should have a say in that. You know, if we want to have children, you know, we should be able to have children, not have to say, oh, your carbon allowance doesn't allow that, or, you know, some other BS. So I am against the scumbags and all they do, but I concentrate on the chemtrails, U.S. Army, Air Force, it's a big one in my book. So yay us.
It's streamable, kmud.org. We are the third Sunday of every month, 1:30 to 3 p.m. Pacific, and we've been doing a series on geoengineering since December. I co-host with Bud Rogers and talking about different elements. Before geoengineering began, he did a whole show on glyphosate, that ingredient in Roundup. And I wanted to bring up a couple of things that people mentioned. What's connected? In addition to military operations and industrial, there are independent companies, weather modification companies, such as the company that Monsanto purchased about 2 years ago. That's one thing. Also, I wanted to mention, somebody brought up about fires and how this affects the fires. I was at the Geoengineering conference hosted by Dane Wigington of Geoengineering Watch last month in Reading. And there were several very educated scientists, USDA wildlife, fisheries, a lot of intelligent people, educated. And one of the scientists did bring up the point of the aluminum and the heavy metals are incendiary, and they make fires burn hotter. And I just wanted to bring that up. That was stated by a scientist. Another thing that you mentioned, the IPCC, and I just wanted to mention one thing. I just briefly looked them up when I was doing research because it kept coming up. I'm like, who is this, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change? Well, I began to look into that, and one of their task force, I found this quite puzzling. One of the things they study is aerosols in the atmosphere. I began to wonder, is that all the residual leftover ladies' beehives from the 50s and 60s? I mean, really. You know, we cut out our aerosols decades ago. I think perhaps it's the aerosols they're putting up there. I don't know, but wanted to mention that. And also about children. I believe that on the Geoengineering Watch there is a brief, maybe it's about 5-10 minutes, a little documentary of children actually speaking about this. And also last year I shared the Look Up documentary with a friend, and her daughter, about 10 years old, watched that. About a week or two later, when I was out in New Orleans, my hometown, by the way, I'm a climate refugee from a decade ago. Just about a week or two after watching this Look Up documentary, when I was out there photographing the trails, not saying anything, she looked at me and she said, "Christina, look in back of you, the trails in back of you." And I turned to see the trails I did not see, but she saw them. She got it. They were X marking right in back of my head, and she got it. She wasn't scared, but children, I think they can get a grasp on it. So, and one more thing, I just want to say, you know, when I started researching this and realized what was really going on with the trails I'd been watching, and I watched increase over the years, everybody said, oh, be afraid, don't talk about that. Oh, don't talk about that, don't speak up. Oh no, are you going to be the Karen Silkwood of the skies? I said, oh no, because I gotta tell you, I started researching and I began feeling very Erin Brockovich-y. The toxic air making my skin feel itchy. I breathe it in and it makes me wheeze. Metallic smell and taste stirs a sneeze. Up above, sky glowy gray. No more sunshine, hazy each day. We used to call it smog. They tell us natural fog. I see no line or shape of cloud, only aerosol chemical shroud. And I say we all should join together and become very Erin Brockovich-y. Let's all be Erin Brockoviches of the aerosols. Let's forget the fear. Forget the fear. False evidence appearing real. It's time to be real. Be the ready eyes, aware of lies.
You keep talking about the importance of documentation, and I read an article once that the only thing that we can do is go to our county clerk, the one county clerk that there is, and document with them that I do not consent to geoengineering. Do you have any comments on that? I mean, can you just go to any courthouse and find the most important county clerk and just put that on record? Because somebody said we have to make a paper trail in order to fight this.
My approach is, well, first of all, like I said, it's covert. No one's going to admit it. But everyone in any public office, elected or otherwise, needs to be served with a formal, I'm not quite sure the exact language, it's basically misprision of felony. When they have a jurisdiction, which includes, like the EPA is supposedly protecting our health or the environment, and they are informed of a felony and do nothing about it, they become guilty. Them personally, not just the organization, and there's no statute of limitations on that. And I was speaking to someone earlier today, I forget who, and they managed to stop a fracking operation in Australia by serving everyone with misprision of felony documents, holding them personally liable for the damage to the aquifer or whatever, and that stopped it. So the statute of limitations thing and having the people individually responsible, that will rattle them. But still, going back, I still believe our first job is education. Until we have that, we're not gonna. I mean, early on in the GMO movement, if people were filing lawsuits, then maybe something would have happened. But it was people talking to one another that actually got results. And I mean, that fight's not over. It's sort of midway, I would say, and ours is relatively smaller, but where we have the advantage over the GMO thing, like a GMO apple looks like a regular apple. The skies, everyone can see that. Of course now, the program ramped up in the late 90s, so unless people are like over 30, significantly over 30 in my case, they wouldn't have noticed. But like the sundog thing, that has only happened in the last couple of years. People do notice. So it's in plain sight, so it's an advantage. And yes, there are other issues, but once people are aware of this one, then they can also, they'll be able to go down the other ones, such as GMO or fluoridation or whatever. I forgot what the question was. Oh yeah, yeah, I mean, if you're a policy wonk, you're a lawyer, you're whatever your strength is. If it's knitting, use that. Everyone has their own skill set. I just happen to have this, like the journalism and all that sort of stuff in the background that brought me to here. But it can be whatever you can do. And just follow your gut and listen to your gut, because you will. I mean, I've been wrong about stuff in the past, and I'd love to be wrong about this. That'd be great. If this wasn't happening, that'd be fantastic. However you feel you can best do stuff, do it, because I mean, it's like when I see a pregnant woman. First of all, I'll strike up a conversation, then tell them about chelation. I mean, how when you're pregnant, it's really good to eat cilantro and chlorella. That's actually good for the stuff we're breathing as well, to protect their baby. And if I have their attention, I'll say, oh, by the way, did you know about the product insert for the vaccine when it says it hasn't been, there's animal reproduction studies have not been conducted, and it is not known whether it can cause fetal harm to their baby or sterilize them. So whatever tools you have at hand, use them. And also, as a photographer, like I take pictures at Burning Man every year, and to make life easier for me, I just have one setup that I use. I use the same frame, camera, so I know what my focal, my frame is going to be, and I know everything about that before I bring it up to my eye. If you can get very, very comfortable with a part of this, that you can speak with authority, use that. And when someone says, oh, but what about such and such, you can say, well, I do not know that. I'll look into it. Because you're going to have this Rule 19 thing. They'll try to give you, they'll try to trip you up and say, well, why don't you go up and take a sample from behind the plane? Yeah, you need a surface-to-air missile to do that. So don't be afraid to say, I don't know. And don't be afraid to talk to people, because once you start talking to people, everybody here has found out people aren't that scary. It's actually quite easy and quite fun to do it. We're social animals. And that's what's going to win this thing. Just talking to people on the bus. Because you never know who it's going to be. So anyway, that was another rambling answer.
One mind at a time.
One mind at a time.
Hello, thank you for being here.
Okay, closer to the mic.
Yes, so my problem is when I do tell people, they usually say, well, okay, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. So, and I'm like, well, you tell others, you spread the word. And
like GMO.
And they're like, well, what's that going to do? I mean, how are we going to, we'll talk to each other, but, there's really nothing we can do. Yes, I would like to know, because that's where I get caught up. Like,
yeah, come to the mic.
Okay.
You think you are too small to make a difference. You have never spent the night with a mosquito.
Yeah.
Live by it.
So just spread the word. Okay.
Hi, Patrick. I'm Andrea from Tuolumne County in the Sierras, and we are just getting bombed. So I wanted to get clarification from you about a short Facebook message we shared where I found the publication in the Journal of Environmental Health, or Public Health and Environmental Science, that new article that came out on coal ash theory. Okay, so when I got it and found it, I thought, oh, whoopee, if chemtrails weren't real, they wouldn't be putting a journal article out on it from scientists, so I got kind of excited, and then I got the impression that that may be just kind of a shill thing. So if you could kind of give me why you think the coal ash theory isn't good.
Okay, so there was an article about coal ash and possible links to, are they using coal ash for, for spraying? It doesn't make sense to me if their goal is to poison us. I mean, because we know it's not solar radiation management because they're doing all this other stuff. If they wanted to get us poisoned with the metals from coal ash, all they have to do is turn the scrubbers off on the plants. Why bother scrubbing it, pulling it up into the sky and dumping it there? It makes no sense. But the other reason, which I feel, two reasons. First, they're telling us. Number one, it got published. Secondly, by saying it's coal ash is a thing. The trails are different. We can see the differences in the trails. And if we were to go along with the idea, yes, they're spraying coal ash, the argument would be, well, hey, we're breathing that stuff in anyway from the coal plant, so what's the big deal? And secondly, it takes the heat off the nanofabrication companies like Nano Armor and Applied Materials and all those other scumbags who are making huge amounts of money fabricating this stuff. And it's very sophisticated. I mean, like I said, if you're spending $200 million just to get the plane, they can spend a lot of money on what they're actually spraying. And I don't know why they're doing it. But it's more sophisticated than just some stuff that comes out of a power plant. So yes, maybe the coal ash might be used as one of the raw materials for getting some of these metals instead of mining. It might be one of the sources, but I do not buy that it's just straight coal ash.
Right, okay, thank you. And I just wanted to say to everybody here, thank you. I have been alone for years. My heart is just filled with you guys. Thank you. This has been the burden and it's lifted.